Welcome to the greenhouses here at Temple University Ambler. I'm Ben Snyder, manager of the Greenhouse Education and Research Complex here at Temple Ambler. Today we'll be looking at agaves, some of their many uses, and how you can grow these unique plants at home. So right now we're in our hoop house looking at some of our larger agave specimens, including Agave Americana, the century plant, the variegated century plant, Agave Americana marginata, and Agave attenuata, the foxtail agave. So agaves as a whole are succulent plants, primarily native to the Americas, concentrated in Mexico in the southwestern United States. They can range in size from 10 feet tall to under 1 foot. We'll take a look at some of our smaller agaves in our main greenhouse a little bit later on. Many agaves have the common name of century plant. This comes from the somewhat exaggerated thought that they'll only flower every 100 years. In reality, it's often more frequent than that, typically around 25 or so, although that time frame really varies from species to species and individual plants. What they lack in frequency, though, they make up for in size. For example, this Agave Americana, when it flowers, will produce a flower stalk 25 to 30 feet tall. Agaves are in the Asparaceae family, so when they flower, the emerging flower stalk in its young stage looks like a giant spear of asparagus. This spear grows until it reaches full height and then produces clusters of white or pale green flowers at the top. The reason for this giant flower spike and the pale color of the flowers is that this plant is pollinated by bats. So that height gives it better visibility to the flying bats at night and increases the likelihood of it being pollinated. While at 25 to 30 feet tall, that big of a flower sounds like something that you'd want your agave to do, to be able to see it. And while it is really cool, it also means that your agave, in many cases, is about to die. With only a few exceptions, the agave genus is monocarpic, meaning that they only flower once in their life, then die. Not to worry, though. Many agaves will produce pups at the base of the plant, which then can be used to propagate it and carry on that plant. So our Agave Americana at the bottom, you can see there's a small pup or a little plantlet coming out of the bottom, and that can be separated off to replace the large plant once it flowers. So aside from being very cool architectural plants, agaves have many commercial uses as well. Given the particular time of year, around the 5th of May, the one that stands out is to make tequila. So the history of tequila began back in the 16th century in Mexico. It is made from the heart or center stalk of the blue agave, Agave tequiliana. This is typically done when the plant is between 7 and 14 years old and involves cutting off all the sharp leaves of the agave, leaving the solid core, which after you do that can still weigh 80 to 200 pounds depending on the age of the plant. The trimmed agave heart is then heated to convert the juices into sugars, and then after roasting, the core is pressed to extract the sugary liquid, which is then fermented and distilled into tequila. So besides their use to make tequila, agaves have many other uses. Another common example is agave nectar or agave syrup, which is a common sugar substitute. It's made by the same process as tequila, just skipping the fermentation step. Certain agave species can also be harvested to make a durable fiber products, such as ropes and doormats. This fiber you may have heard of is sisal, and typically made from the leaves of the Agave siciliana plant. So now we'll move up to our main greenhouse and take a look at some of our other smaller agaves, some really cool appearances in different forms. So we're now in our main greenhouse where we have some of our smaller agave specimens. This collection really highlights the range of colors, habits, textures that you can find in the agave genus. A lot of really cool stuff. There's variegated sisal agave. There's Agave Victoria Reginae that has these very unique peeling fibers on the edge of the leaves. A lot of things that just add some different interest to the plants. So aside from their commercial uses, agaves also make really good low-maintenance houseplant, provided you have room to space them out so you're not getting poked by them every time you go to take care of your plants. So coming from arid, sunny climates, agaves need lots of direct sunlight, so south-facing window is best. As you can see here in the greenhouse, they get full sunlight, they don't have any shading, nothing like that. In the summer, once the threat of frost is passed, your agaves will enjoy some time outside, getting fresh air and some more sunlight. You want to move them out gradually, however, otherwise the leaves may burn and it takes them a long time to recover. So agaves are generally slow-growing plants, so need repotted infrequently. When you do repot, though, you want to take clues from their native habitat and give them a free-draining, gritty potting medium. With lots of airspace, without this, root rot could be a problem. It's hard to remedy that once it starts. So watering would also follow their native schedule. These plants are naturally very drought tolerant, but when you do water, make sure to water thoroughly. This is much better for the plants than infrequent spritzes once a week. They really just prefer deep drenching with more space in between to dry out. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction to agaves, and that maybe it has inspired you to take a look at some of the many other ways that plants are an important part of our daily lives. While the greenhouse complex and Ambler Arboretum are currently closed to visitors, we hope to see you exploring the gardens and greenhouse in the future when we reopen. In the meantime, though, stay safe and continue to follow the Ambler campus on Facebook and Instagram. That way you can see the daily photos of what's blooming in our gardens.